So that was actually the turning point on why Karl Marx is remembered as such an important figure in socialist history, because he developed a economic analysis that was very detailed and technical and scientific, right? That kind of took those socialist ideas, like, taking care of the working class is great, education is great, all this stuff is great, but this idea that you needed a government or a state or a business owner or something to oversee it was part of the problem. So when Karl Marx wrote about his analysis about how capitalism works in works like the Manifesto of the Communist Party, and then eventually his really big work, Capital, one of Marx's key points was breaking with those utopian socialists and saying the state itself is the problem because of all the things we've talked about. It oppresses workers and it's total and all this stuff. And so Marx argued that the state shouldn't be seen as the ideal that we're working for that will create better worker conditions. Instead, the working class has to free itself, that the working class has to create its own institutions and organize and govern itself, essentially, and move away from that sort of concept. And so Marx made the prediction that as capitalism fails and workers organize, eventually that sort of state would wither away, as he put it. And eventually you wouldn't need any sort of centralized state because communities would be able to organize and govern themselves in a society without class, right, where you wouldn't have rich people over poor people. And that state of society is what he called capitalism. I totally ruined that, didn't I? Communism. He called that communism. And so socialist organizing is kind of toward that society as sort of a lawn thing. Next slide.
A quick note.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Today is Engels' 200th birthday. So I just threw a link in the chat for a piece from Left Voice on that. So happy birthday, Friedrich Engels.
Oh, yeah.
And then the other thing I wanted to point out, Garrett started off this slide talking about that economic analysis. And when you look at that economic analysis, it's pretty non-controversial. The critiques that Marx laid out are pretty scathing and pretty hard to deny, a lot of them. Right? Even today, a lot of them are still very, very, very relevant. So even people who disagree with his prescriptions, right, who disagree with him on the state, who disagree with him with all these things, the criticisms of capitalism, because he took such a scientific approach to his economic analysis, don't have as much room for debate as is left to believe. And so that's something to keep in mind when you're you're looking at Marx is the right has had to deal with these things, his ideas, because they're coming to fruition, because they're coming to truth.